San Francisco has an unusual plan to design this street for bees and butterflies.
So the idea is to get the planting palette lined up so that there's always something blooming along a block.
Other streets would be designed for this lizard species.
Along the curbside, maybe we have larger stones or boulders stacked together so that this species may find it.
And this street for coyotes.
Yeah, I think it's going to be planting more of the shrubs and brush and grasses, places to hide and cover.
These unconventional ideas are laid out in something called the Green Connections Plan.
So the plan includes 24 routes that kind of create a network across the city, and they connect all of the parks, open spaces to each other along residential streets.
You can see the plan in action here in the Golden Gate Heights neighborhood. It's home to the imperiled green hairstreak butterfly.
There were only tiny remnant populations left of that butterfly in San Francisco.
Until recently, the local population was largely confined to 2 hilltop parks.
Right, so the 2 populations were isolated from each other by urbanization and habitat loss. And our idea was to try connecting those populations and planting more of the habitat along these tiny parcels along the way between these much larger habitats.
Yeah, so rather than having 2 isolated populations that are just breeding within one another, you can get some gene flow between them.
That's right, that's right. We're trying to increase the genetic diversity of this species.
And the butterflies seem to be responding.
So it's really interesting when you plant all of these plants they need, they'll show up, which is kind of amazing. We didn't really know that that would happen.
And this may offer a model for Green Connections Route number 20, the pollinator route.
Pollinators are everything from moths to bats and some butterflies.
So these are the animals that are heavily visiting the flowers. They're the ones drinking the nectar and carrying the pollen from plant to plant.
Yeah, we have a list of plants that we're recommending.
You'll find many of these plants on a median strip that's now been converted into a pollinator boulevard.
This is such an improvement over what was here, which was just straight lawn grass. This was intended for pollinators of all sorts of different kinds. So flowering plants that flower in the spring all the way through the summer and then again in the winter. So there's always going to be something in bloom in a pollinator garden.
Is this the sort of thing that you'd like to see sort of throughout the city?
Yeah, if we could.
Then there's route number 3, named for Anna's hummingbird. It starts at an intensely urban area south of Market Street.
So we are right in the middle of the city.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like a very hospitable place for wildlife.
Yeah, you wouldn't think so, but hummingbirds can find habitat even in the densest parts of the city. They can find the right trees and the right habitat, and there's enough plants around that they can get the nectar they need, and there's enough evergreen trees that they can find nesting.
And let's not forget the surprising route we mentioned earlier, designated for coyotes.
So a lot of that route is open grassland or scrubland hilltops, and it goes into some of the larger parks where dens may already be. It's going to be connecting those parks a little bit like we did with the Green Hairstreak corridor.
Right.
Just finding small ways that we can enhance the habitat in between the larger natural areas.
Keep in mind, these corridors aren't just for coyotes or birds or bees. People need access to nature too. And the hope is that these greener streets would give us safer, more pleasant ways to get there.
If people knew how to get to their parks by way of these connections, it would be really great. We're just trying to get them to experience the wildlife that could be seen all around them, whether it's in their street trees or the parks nearby, and get there in sustainable ways.
Urban Nature is made possible in part by the following: